What's up, everybody? My name is Caleb, and hey, one thing you need to know about me is that I am known for getting lost. Like, all the time. Like, I'll just be going to the store, get some groceries, living the good life, and I come outside, I'm like, did I even drive here? I'm like, maybe, y'all probably can't even drive yet, but maybe your parents do. And where's the car? Where? I don't know. Maybe you're like that too. Maybe you were exploring with your friend in your neighborhood and got totally lost in his own neighborhood. He's like, oh yeah, I know. And you got lost. You had no idea where you were or where you should go. Or maybe when you were younger, you accidentally wandered off from your parents in the grocery store, And the next thing you knew, your parents were nowhere to be found and you're in a jungle of clothes. Or maybe you've been on a road trip before and the person who was driving thought they were going the right way, but then everyone realized it was not the right way and you were in the middle of nowhere. If you've ever gotten lost before, you might have found yourself in the moment asking, yo, what am I supposed to do now? When you're lost, you want to do something to make the situation better or figure out where you're supposed to be, but you just feel a little helpless, like you don't know where to turn next. And I think we all feel that way sometimes. That question of, what am I supposed to do now? For me, that's how I usually feel when we talk about injustice. Remember, injustices are the things in our world that are unfair, unequal, or just not right. They're the kind of things that happen to us or to others that make us think, yo, somebody should do something about that. And as we've learned over the last few weeks, not only does God care about injustice, but He calls us to work with Him to help bring justice. He challenges us to do something about it, to be part of the work He is doing to make things right. And while that's a really, really cool and even exciting challenge, I think if we're honest, it's also a little overwhelming. I mean, for starters, we sometimes feel like there's not a lot we can do about the injustices we see in the world. I mean, the huge problems of poverty, racism, hunger, unequal treatment of people, cruelty, crime, the list goes on. And those things just feel like part of a never-ending battle against injustice. And at times, it truly feels like we can't solve big problems like these. Maybe you feel that way sometimes too. Maybe you look at the injustices in the world and feel a little hopeless. I mean, they've always happened, and they're still happening. So can there even be hope that they won't happen? Is there anything we can really do to change them? Or maybe you do have hope that things can change, but you don't feel like you can be part of the solution. You wonder if you can make a difference when it comes to such big problems in the world. Maybe you see injustices happening to people in your school or in your neighborhood, but you don't know what to do or how to help. After all, how much can one person actually do to change something like that? Maybe you're sitting there kind of feeling like you do when you've gotten lost before. You know injustice is out there, but you don't know what to do to help to make things better. Or maybe you're the person on the receiving end of injustice. You're dealing with it each and every day. And because of that, you know just how difficult actually doing something about it can be sometimes. Maybe you're someone who knows it's happening, but honestly, it's not affecting you. And because of that, you're just not sure what you're supposed to do about it. Maybe you're not even sure you want to do anything about it. Or maybe you've jumped in to do your part. You've spoken up, you've shown up whenever you see injustice, and maybe you've even seen some progress in your fight. Let's go, come on, keep going. But because of that, you know that the work to fight injustice, it's not easy. In fact, it's really, 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 really hard. And maybe because of that, you're not sure if you can keep going. You're not sure if you can stay in the fight because honestly, it's a lot. And yo, all of that, I totally get it. Because you're right. Standing up and doing something about injustice isn't easy. It's overwhelming. It's something that feels like somebody bigger or stronger or older or more powerful should be doing. It feels like something somebody needs to do something about, right? Here's what I want you to know today. You are somebody. What? Crazy, I know. You are somebody. And whether you realize it or not, I believe that you could be the somebody to start doing something and keep doing something about the injustices that you see and care about in the world around you. Now, to help us out here, I want to talk about a guy named James. And what's interesting about James is that he was actually the half-brother of Jesus. Now, after Jesus died and came back to life, I love how we just say that like it's a normal thing. So yeah, my God Jesus, he died, he's back to life, no biggie. James became a leader of the early church. And during that time, James wrote a letter to a group of Christians who were facing injustice in their world. And James wanted to encourage and challenge them. He did so by saying this: "Suppose a brother or sister is without clothes and daily food. If one of you says to them, 'Go in peace, keep warm and well fed,' but does nothing about their physical needs, what good is it?" Okay, so that sounds a little harsh. James was basically saying, hey, when you see an injustice, you have to do more than just offer a few words and walk away. You have to do more than just hope it changes, but still hope that it changes. If you don't do anything to actually try and help, what good is it? I think this bold statement stings just a little bit because if we're honest, that's what we're all tempted to do sometimes. When we're faced with the hugeness of a problem that we don't know how to solve, we often just settle for simple words over actual actions. We join the hundreds or thousands or even millions of people waiting for and praying for somebody to actually do something. And if we're the ones hurting, sometimes we even give up hope that something can or will actually happen to make it right. But in that, we miss the opportunity God may be giving us to be part of the answer, to be that somebody who can do something. James went on to explain that as followers of Jesus, our response to injustice is directly connected to our faith. He said this: "In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." Whew. James was saying here that our faith and our actions, they're connected. If we say that we have faith, but it doesn't motivate us to do something, then something about our faith is dead. Something about our faith isn't quite right. And here's why that's a big deal. Living a life of faith is about becoming more like Jesus. And even if you've missed every part of this series so far, here's the part I want you to always remember. When it came to injustice, Jesus was always doing something. Always. And when we make that shift to allow our prayers and words to turn into action, we're becoming more like the person we're praying to. We're becoming more like Jesus himself. The things that make you feel sad or angry that you know aren't right, the injustices that motivate you to act, those things that hurt you and the people you love, those things are wrongs in the world that God wants to see made right. And he created you and me to be the somebodies, that's a weird word, somebodies. He created you and me to be the somebodies to do something about it. Not just talk about it, but to be about it. Come on. To act on it and to keep acting as a reflection of our faith in God who cares about injustice. Then others around us can see the God who cares about injustice too. When it comes to injustice, never stop doing something. And I know, it may feel overwhelming, like our little actions won't have any effect on such giant problems. But small changes, they're still that, changes. And they're changes in the right direction. God tells us in his word that no matter how long the fight is, no matter how hard the battle is, we aren't supposed to give up. The Apostle Paul wrote this: "Let us not become weary in doing good. For at the proper time, we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. Therefore, as we have opportunity, let us do good to all people." Don't get weary when you're doing good, Paul said. In other words, don't give up. Don't give in when the good work gets hard. Instead, keep going, keep working, keep fighting. Paul used farming language to make this point. And while most of us aren't farmers, maybe you are, sorry for assuming, it still totally applies to us. He said not to become weary of doing good because we'll get a harvest. That means at the right time, we'll see the benefits of the work we've put in. See, fighting injustice is like planting a seed. You plant it, hey, you water it, and you give it sunlight and time to grow. Now, here's the important part. You can't just plant the seed, water it once, and hope for it to become this. Nah, you have to keep showing up to water it, to look out for it, to check in on it. You may not see much at the beginning, and you may not even think that a plant will ever sprout, but underground, a lot is happening. And at the right time, the plant will pop up, and eventually it will be harvest time. I'm gonna move all this. It's the same with injustice. Even if you don't see any change right at the moment, don't get discouraged. Do not grow weary. You are making a change. Some of that change might not happen right away. It may not be visible at first, but God is working in ways you might not be able to see. So don't give up. Keep doing good to all people. When it comes to injustice, never stop doing something. We actually have the power to set off a chain reaction when it comes to fighting injustice, but we can't take action without setting things up first. Now, before an action can happen, we have to actually see the injustice. And we've learned that God is doing something about injustice by using each of us. And today, we're reminded of another important thing when it comes to injustice, that we should never stop doing something. Now, doing something about injustice can't just be a box that we check. It can't be a one-time thing. We can't be the somebody who does something once, woo, and never does it again. If we want to be people who show others that God cares about injustice, we have to keep caring, keep acting, and keep working together. When it comes to injustice, never stop doing something. God calls us to a lifelong attitude of justice and continued action as we live out our faith. We might not be able to change everything, but we can keep doing something. Maybe you're already doing something, or maybe you're not sure where to start. Well, here are a few ways we can all keep doing something about injustice. First, use your voice. Speak up. Say something when you see it. Share about it on social media. Talk to a friend about the causes that you care about the injustices that are moving you to act. Start a conversation with a teacher or adult who can help you fight against injustice you might be experiencing. We may not have all the power or money or platform to make huge changes, but we do all have a voice to speak up when we see injustice happening. And when we speak up, not only are we telling those around us that we care about the injustices happening and the people they're happening to, we're showing others that God cares about it too. Use your influence. All of us have some sort of influence. Maybe you're popular at school. Lucky. Maybe you're a leader on your team or in your group. Maybe you have a younger sibling or neighbor who looks up to you. Whatever influence you have, use it to help others see the injustices you care about. Use it to educate. Use it to encourage others to act alongside you. Use your talent. You don't have to give up on basketball or theater or Spanish class or whatever your hobby is. You don't have to be a big personality or a strong speaker or a super smart student in order to act on injustice. Whatever talent you have, God can use it to shine light on an issue and inspire others to act. If you're not sure what that looks like for you, ask God to show you. Think about what you're good at and what you like to do. If you're good at playing piano, maybe you could teach someone how to play who could use a friend right now. Or maybe if math is your strongest subject, again, lucky, you could tutor someone who is struggling to understand it. Maybe even start a conversation in your group about it today. The people in your group are there to encourage you to live out God's best for your life. So ask them what talents they see in you and brainstorm ways you can use those in the fight against injustice together. Use your time. We're not talking about doing one service project or signing up to volunteer a few times. Guys, injustice, it's everywhere. And it will stay that way if we don't keep acting. Part of following Jesus is making a commitment to do something and keep doing something. So make the work against injustice more than just a one-time thing. Make it a lifelong goal. Keep showing up, keep giving, keep telling your story. No matter what, don't give up on the fight. Because when it comes to injustice, never stop doing something. Maybe you've never thought that God cares about injustice. Maybe you've never realized that it's out there and impacting the lives of people you may know. Maybe you've never thought that you could be a part of the solution. Or maybe you've lost hope that God still cares about you and the people you love who are hurting. My prayer for each one of you is that your eyes will remain open to see the injustices in this world, that your heart would be moved to act, that you would stand with others so they don't have to experience injustice alone, and that you would make injustice a cause you take up for the rest of your lives. Because I believe you can be the generation that makes the kind of change that lasts. The kind of change that makes this whole world a better place for all of us. I believe you are the generation who can do something. Can you imagine if everyone chose to do something with their voice, their influence, their talent, and their time? If we chose to care about and keep fighting against the injustice that we see around us and in the world, I think it could cause a domino effect that could change the world.